men with facial hair are just ugly and trying to cover it up. You'll see. Hey, I'm John Caldera, president of the Independence Institute, and I'm also your devil's advocate. Thanks for joining us tonight. Later on in the program, we'll look at something called blended learning. So if you have kids in school, if you're going to have kids in school, if you have people who are involved in education, be sure to tune in. But first, have you been driving around and occasionally see a sign that says, "Shame on this company," for some sort of labor dispute? I love these signs, and we're going to find out more. First, Mark Latimer, thank you for being here from the Associated Builders and Contractors.
Thank you for having me.
Did that so you get the ABC.
There we go.
Very crucial. And Wayne Sauer from a place called the Parsec Group. I like that. Sounds very scientific.
Yeah, it's a unit of measurement.
Is it?
Yeah.
How small is it?
It's big.
It's big. How big is it?
3.2 light years. Distance.
Really?
Yeah. That's the easy explanation.
That's about as far away as the nearest star, which is Alpha Centauri.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, maybe. What does your business do?
We're a IT firm. We specialize in operating systems, and we do basically consulting, training, and support for all the major operating systems.
Why the hell am I talking to you? What do you have to do with anything here?
I was shamed.
Were you one of those shameful guys the banner in front of you? I tell you what, hold that thought, because I want to find out what you did wrong, and I'm certain you've done something wrong. All right, I've been seeing these signs up all over the Denver metro area. One that I pass by often is I think it's on Arapahoe Road, and it's in front of a car dealership. I think it's Subaru, and it has these guys holding this really large banner. It just says, "Shame on Subaru, labor dispute." Who are these people?
Well, they're folks from the Carpenters Union is behind it, the Local 55, and it's actually been organized out of the Southwest Carpenters Council. A lot of the folks holding the signs, as a matter of fact, are not even union employees. They are day laborers, folks that are being paid minimum wage. But really what they're trying to do is shame that company into using a non-union drywall.
All right, but I'm seeing a sign that says, "Shame on Subaru," or "Shame on," it was one for a law firm, labor dispute. Matter of fact, I think we've got a few pictures of this. Let's take a look. You've seen these before. These are signs that say Del Fresco, shame on Del Fresco, like I'm not supposed to eat there any longer. We've seen these signs. Gary S. Campbell, I wonder what he did wrong. I think that's a law firm. And of course, shame on this. So these are the same signs I see all over, and there's always somebody holding it up. I mean, good old-fashioned picketing is traditional, and workers have a right to express their First Amendment concerns. And if there is a labor dispute between, I'll keep using Subaru for no apparent reason, if there's a labor dispute between Subaru and their union, there's nothing wrong with their union out there picketing in front.
And one of the subtle differences is the reason they're not using pickets or your traditional billboard up on a piece of wood is because the NLRB has said that secondary boycotts if you are trying to picket a company that you don't truly have a grievance with.
All right, hang on a second. So the National Labor Relations Board, that they deal with unions, says that if you hold up a sign with a stick on it that says "shame on them," that goes into one category?
That's correct.
And what is this category when they're holding the whole banner?
And apparently a 15-foot banner is free speech, and they can falsely accuse whatever company and say they have a labor dispute. But the minute they put it on a stick, that's why you won't ever see the shame on signs on the stick.
Who knew? What a complicated little world we live in, isn't it? All right, but you're telling me that the fight there with Subaru isn't really with Subaru. It's not like wherever the Subaru plant is, their union workers are striking because they're not making enough money or they want to. This has nothing to do with Subaru. It has to do with the carpenters who wanted a job at doing some little bit of work, moving a wall, doing a paint job, putting in something.
Exactly. And that's it. And that's what the point we really want to get across to the public is there's no labor dispute with the company that has the shame on whoever, fill in the blank. It really is their labor dispute is the fact that company has chose to use a non-union drywall company or carpentry to do the work.
That's it. And by the way, I want to make it really clear, we worked in good faith trying to find someone from the unions to come in and talk to us to explain this. They declined that. So we thought we'd go to one of the villains themselves. Now, you're in the union busting business, is that right? This is what you do.
Evidently.
Evidently. You're in the software business.
Yes.
All right. What did you do wrong? What did you do?
According to them, they send you out these letters and stuff like that, and it's interesting because they send it out warning you that if you don't select a company that will use union help, that they're going to do all this stuff.
I mean, what did you needed done?
Well, what I needed done is I just needed a wall moved. We shrunk our space a little bit because it was in a training room, and we didn't need that big of a space. We moved a wall. My building
I'm talking
management.
about a big foundational wall. You're just taking
No,
some
just a drywall.
drywall and some metal studs, and you needed to move it.
Right.
And so it's a pretty simple construction
Right.
job.
So we brought in, or we had to use our building management to manage the contractor who managed the subcontractor who was not the union person. And so what happened is I'm 3 levels removed from this. So it's like I didn't even make a choice.
How did the union know you needed to have a wall moved?
I'm not really sure. I bet you what they're doing is looking at permits pulled.
Okay, so the union goes down, looks, seeing, oh wait, there's a permit being pulled. So obviously, but at which point, if there's a permit being pulled, chances are you've already chosen who's going to do the work.
Exactly.
So sending you a letter saying choose us is not.
Well, you know, there's so much hypocrisy going on here, so many double standards. For example, you know, these guys say the reason that we're shamed and the reason we're desecrating the American way of life is because we're not paying union dues and we're not paying health insurance. But here they go around and they bring these day laborers on, holding the sign up. They're paying them, from what I understand, $10 an hour, and I bet you they're not paying their health insurance. So it's really hypocritical to be saying that.
Did you make a specific decision when you said we need to move this wall? Did you tell your chain of command, but whatever you do, don't hire a union? Was that part of your?
No, I didn't even think about it. I got to say, though, once I got that threatening letter, I pulled in my contractor and said, don't use a union because I'm not going to be threatened.
Now, outside of your business, how long did they hold up a sign that said "Shame on Parsec, union dispute"?
About 2 months.
2 months.
Yeah.
How long did it take to move the wall?
It took about a couple days.
So a 2-day project,
Right.
and that was gone. It was over and
Right.
done with. And for a couple of months, you had guys holding this "Shame on you" sign. Now, your business is largely walk-up retail, so people come in and they were scared away from this "Shame on" sign, and it destroyed your business.
No, actually, it's interesting. They spent all that money paying those guys for all that period of time building the sign, and 99% of my business is either out of the country or out of the state, right? So they waste a lot of money, and I gotta say, you know, you look at the value proposition. They spent $30 an hour on those 3 people over a 2-month period, and then you throw on the sign.
Were they there all day?
Oh, they're there about 6 hours.
All right, so 6 hours a day
Yep.
for 2 months.
Yep.
That's a lot of money.
That's a lot of money, and if I was a union member, I'd be really upset that they're throwing away my union dues.
So union money is going to do this for a company that you're not going to be shamed because your customers don't care one way or the other.
Right. They're mostly professionals, so they're not part of a union. They're not going to be probably supporting that kind of activity.
I think what's really important to point out is that the company that's in the name, whether it's Subaru or Parsec or Del Fresco, they had nothing to do with anything. All they did was make a simple choice to have, you know, a wall moved or a door frame changed from one to the other, and whoever did the construction chose this subcontractor instead of that subcontractor. It's not as if Del Fresco has a union dispute throughout there is no union dispute because it's not with their workers. Am I missing this? This has nothing to do with their workers.
Correct.
Well, and that's the point we really want to get across to the viewers, is the fact that they want to mislead people into thinking it's a true labor dispute, and it in fact is a tactic to try and bully and intimidate those owners from using only union contractors. And so it is a way of trying to threaten and coerce the owners who should have free choice of whether they want to use a union or non-union contractor, but they're trying to use this tactic to scare them, saying, I don't want the bad PR, I don't want the banners out in front of my business, so I'll just use a union contractor.
Am my analogy wrong here? Now, when I need to get something done in my house, and occasionally it requires drywalling or painting or something along those lines, I go out and I have a few bids. I'll be sure to call a couple different contractors and say, hey, I need to move this wall, I need to re-drywall, I need to do something. How much is it going to cost? They come and they each give me an estimate. Mm-hmm. I look at the estimate and I say, which one is the least cost that also has the experience that I want and a reputation? I use that. I don't care if the guy's union or not. I want the best job for the least amount of money. Am I wrong to think, and this is probably more for your business since you work with contractors, am I wrong to think that if the union was competitive, there would be no shame on you signs because they would have gotten the gig?
Exactly, and I think you have summarized the whole. It's about choices, and people can get those bids and look at it, and they're not being competitive with their bids, even because maybe it's a difference in wage rates, ineffective wage rules, or whatever it might be. So they can't compete in the open market, so they're trying to use this tactic as bullying technique in order to get people to stop using non-union and take a higher bid from a union contractor.
Tell me again, which union is behind the Shame on You bannering campaign?
Yeah, and this is the local carpenters, Local 55. They just recently became part of the Southwest Regional Council of Carpenters out of LA. And that's part of the reason people have asked, why do you see this happening more? And they're a much more aggressive union out of California.
I know you can't answer this one. Well, let me just try it for size. If they want more union work, why aren't they hiring union guys to hold the Shame on You signs? And again, I'll be throwing that softball to you, but
you know, and that's one of the things we really find frustrating. Our members find, and even the owners and tenants find particularly disingenuous, is it's folks that are paying a minimum wage. It's not even union folks that are out there holding the signs that should be getting paid to hold the signs.
Well, it tells me a couple things. Either the union guys wouldn't do it for free, or the union guys are busy working someplace and therefore not getting your job or your contract works. Has this hurt many businesses? I mean, you deal with this. You're seeing it. You're seeing contractors that are getting intimidated, feeling that they need to use a more expensive union guy so that there isn't this embarrassment for their client. Who's being hurt?
Well, I'd say it's having an impact, and more than anything, it's kind of the third party who really had no choice in some cases in this. Local law enforcement, instead of being out and protecting and serving the community, they're having to go and deal with the issue in terms of disturbing the peace. Oftentimes they don't respect property lines, so the unions are trespassing. So it's taking up the time and the efforts of the local police within that community. And it's also an annoyance for the owners. They have to deal with this and make sure that their clients see through it for what it really is.
Let's wrap it up with a question for you. As one of those guys who's been targeted for no apparent reason, what's your advice to the other business that walks out one day or gets one of these letters that says, you know, you better use a union? What's your advice to them?
Well, my advice would just be to ignore it. And again, I think if they're going to go out there and aggressively try to stop you, then to me, my first reaction is I'm not going to use a union, period. And but
if you give them a little bit, they'll never go away.
Exactly.
Gentlemen, thank you. Shame on both of you. Stay tuned.